per usual, we will go in towards the operator bans. Is there anything that happened in that last map where they're like, all right, we really need to get rid of a Thatcher? Yes, that's exactly what Team 1 thinks.
Get him out of here. Get rid of the control that they were able to sort of have. It was very quick and it was very sort of swift, the drive that they put themselves in on, and if anything, it's a little bit more familiar. It's a little bit more standard. I commented on the fact that where you'll usually see these more interesting bans and intricate bans is against teams that know each other. But Thatcher was on the board before, the sort of removals on Villa. It's always going to be different to Kafe, but this is Kafe bans. Those ones before were specific.
Yeah, Nomad as well, not really something that is too out of the ordinary. Wouldn't be surprised if a Valkyrie will follow up shortly as well, because right now as Runites are being enabled due to the fact that there won't be any air jabs out there, you definitely don't want cameras to be as well. As MIBR decides to go for a oNe, it is going to be up to Team 1, who is on the defense first, whether or not they want to play with a Valkyrie or not.
I feel no. You've got creative aggression from MIBR. Oh,
they do.
Okay.
I was going to say, well,
maybe. Okay. But for me, this is okay. Prove me wrong. And I guess that's always the thing. If I make a statement against you, you've got to prove me wrong, whatever the weather. But a Valk in the hands of MIBR can be very good. It can be good in the hands of anybody, but you're looking at so many places and plays for them to be able to pull together and intel to be offered. And to be fair, one of the reasons the entry game from Team 1 was so good was because that they could manipulate the intel, and they kept on finding single players. They kept on just pulling a player out of an occasion and saying, no, you sit this one out. Valk, for me, offers that back into the hands of MIBR, but Team 1 can still be very good with that intel game. They've already proven that. So I softly retract what I say, but I still have a cautionary asterisk on it.
I was going to say, there's also always the opportunity to bring the IQ, of course, an operator that no longer has frag grenades, yes, but...
Since when?
long time. But ever since, you know, she started to being played a lot less. But lately, we're starting to see a resurgence again. We see more and more IQ coming out because it is just a counter to Valkyrie and to Echo and to a lot of other electronics. Actually, the pulse that has been 6-picked now by Lagonis could also even be scanned and potentially bang the pistol by the side of Lukit. So, IQ coming out. It's going to be interesting to see how effective it will be. Because sometimes we do see teams pick up the IQ but not really make too much use of the gadget. Let's just put it up like that. So it's important that you actually do use the scanner.
Attention is obviously going to be paid to those. And the thing about IQ is she sort of disappeared for a while because Valk was just continually banned. She was
that as well.
So high in the ban rate for everybody on pretty much every map. Not everyone exclusively, but pretty much everyone. This is one of the places where, to be fair, she has had a run around and teams have prepped for an IQ. But sometimes if she's on the board, as we've already seen this tournament, people find it a bit awkward to bring IQ back in. You have that conversation of not just we need her for this, but it's also, okay, but what do we not need? Or what do we need the least from what we have? What's the trade-off?
Oh no.
Well, that got... Okay, I was going to say that got very far. That could have got those ADSs behind and maybe put some pressure onto the player, but just went straight past them.
I was more afraid of the fact that Neskin was on his camera at that point. If he would have checked on the left, that could have been a kill even to come through if he didn't have noticed in time. Of course, it did go off at the right moment. Shot it as well before any damage could be done. But a lot of information will be given out towards the side of MIBR because it was allowed to go that far. It was able to see a player at the planks, a player down on the back of the cocktail, but the rest seemed pretty clear. That is due to the fact that there is 2 players currently offside. There is 2 players currently below, playing with nitros as well to potentially stop plans from happening if MIBR tries to go quick.
Lukit's been able to get himself in and amongst Cigar. He's going to see if anybody swings around as the drones burr and buzz away as the rest of the players get in position. You can see a handful over on East. You've obviously got the diffuser just above the skylight, which means they're going to try and pinch themselves and posture towards that sort of a drop. The Finker boost, but there's no real response, and certainly there's a bit of a rotation. A spray down towards it, just to sort of give the impression, yeah, we're here, we're aware, but you can see the players heading towards Brown Stairs. Reduct gets the bonus, opens it up as Raps tries to drive their way across the top here. They're still concerned, but, well, they've not been able to get the full catch on the holds up here. Obviously, the site is down below, but it's an important vertical clear that you've got to make sure is done.
For sure, nitros are being popped up as well now, but to no avail. Luka continues to just play some verticality now. Xkaros even being used as well to open up even more angles. A player just got spotted walking out of the laundry right there, and now they know that at least one of them is going to be playing around in that hallway or actually in the dining room. And reading seems to be quite close for now. The plant is going down by Files. He's snuck in and no one seems to be aware of it. However, the swing could be right around at the right time. Exactly so. Levy will be able to cancel it from happening, but it's a 1-on-3 situation now. It's only up to Neskin, who finds the very first, needs to find 2 more with 25 seconds on that clock. It is only up to MIBR now to try and recover that diffuser and get it down, or to hunt down the very last member of them, as it's going to be Reduct that spots him out and gets him in the end. But that was almost a very valiant effort.
It was very, very well played there to be able to swing inside the site. But to be honest, the suddenness of MIBR just pushing their way across, finding all the fights on the opposite sides, on the second, third story, and making sure that, well, this was their territory, this was their ground. We saw the Team 1 players forced out. We saw them push down the white stairs. We saw them shepherded away from any of the space, and to be honest, there wasn't a huge sort of kerfuffle about it. There wasn't a lot of pressure being pinched and pushed back against them. It becomes this moment of, okay, Team 1, I need a little bit of that snappiness. MIBR have woken up. They've been able to take the pressure onto the first map, and they're looking to try and drive it here onto the second. And the longer that goes on without you really having a bite back into the approach, the more worrying that becomes.
Heading over to the kitchen next. Not going towards that top floor as of yet. There's a lot of screaming going on. Probably the viewers at home will be able to you know, understand what's going on better than we are at this moment.
It's just finished. It's just finished. We're getting the word from our production. If you don't want to know the result on the other stream.
Close your ears again.
Close your ears. 3, 2, 1. 8-7 to Damwon Kia. Damwon Kia take the first map in the showdown on the other stream.
Just check, because that means that they might be... I mean, it was a 0.1% chance that they would be relegated out. So I think that just...
The 0.1%.
Yeah, you don't have that with the others, do you?
No.
All the percentages.
Demo can't even spell the word percent.
But yeah, they're confirmed first team, I think, that will be going off to the playoffs. It's just going to be a question of whether or not it will be the upper bracket or not.
I think that's it as well, is there's more than just getting out of groups. And although we say only one team gets eliminated, no one wants to be the one team, let's be real. You are still fighting for the placement. You are still fighting for a lifeline, the upper bracket versus the lower bracket on the huge playoffs display that starts in about 3 or 4 days. We still have a couple of days. This is the hump day of all of it. We get past this, we're past the hump, now we're on the downward slide. So that is why we're sort of starting to get these solidities, starting to get these, well, they're not going to be disqualified, but where are, well, not disqualified, kicked out, but where are they going to end up? Neskin still doing some renovation, getting themselves some rotate based on the play that was otherwise coming across. Hefty on the bakery approach here, and he's doing his best to keep it locked down, and Alaman's still in amongst pillars. He's got to be a player that starts to show up a little bit of sharpness here. If he can take some of these vertical fights, draw some attention away, it might slow the approach, because otherwise, well, MIBR aren't slowed at all by this bakery.
Now, and KDS is the big worry here for me in terms of the MIBR push. We have 3 players right around the bakery. We have one near the Kojak and one near Brown Stairs. KDS is going to be able to lock off anything that comes through prep, and that means that they need to open up that main wall. They need to go for a push through there, or just rotate all the way around. And yes, they've opened up, but it's just a small hole. It's just a Hibana. It's not a Thermite exothermic hole that is significantly bigger, and that means that if they're able to watch it, they're definitely going to be taking your head off as you walk right in. But that's a great kill from Luka. Just swings through the small rotation, gets the first kill, finds a second as well, and MIBR explode onto the site, and we'll be able to get a plan down as well if they don't kill KDS quick enough. And that is a 5-on-1 situation right now. They might check all 3 boxes here as KDS picks up 1 kill. However, so the Flawless gets denied, is being hunted down. It's not that MIBR is trying to slow down or they're trying to get that last kill. They're hunting him. They're making sure that he's not able to go to that bottom floor, and they grant him another kill as a result. However, there's Raps just heading around the corner, waiting for him to take the brown stairs down, and that is going to be another round here for the side of MIBR.
2 in a row. They've opened this strong, and this was where they wanted to pull this fight together. Team 1, they need to have a little bit more in this approach. They need to have a little bit more of a bite back here, and as I said, MIBR, they just seem unstoppable on their approaches into site. And that's the questions that I sort of have right now. If you break that round down, if you segment it, them getting into Bakery, yeah, there was no confrontation. There was nobody that sort of butted heads. We could hear some over that early minute of just a couple of sprays and a couple of pushes, but nothing intently. Then it comes through the flood onto the site itself, and MIBR, they're winning their gunfights in the situation. They're overwhelming the bodies and sort of pushing past the verticalities that's locked in.
Attackers need to locate
that first kill was crucial. I don't know if we, you know, I'm new here. I haven't done any other games. I don't know if we have a replay.
Well, the replays,
yeah, okay, but I mean,
happen.
If we can put that, if we did see that, or if
you're
we did
requesting
see that,
stuff,
I am requesting stuff.
People,
either way,
you're trying to.
The way they opened up perfectly covered the angle towards the freezer, which meant they could sneak in, and the pre-fire up onto that window, that is what granted them the kill. It was uncontested, as you mentioned. There was no way they were going to be able to fight back on that, not at least with the angles and the openings they had. And after that, they can just explode. They head in from the hallway, they start with the plant, and there's nothing Team 1 can do to respond. And as they head back towards the reading room now, they're looking desperately to find a round somewhere, but overall, not really been given the opportunity to do so.
Now, the last time these two teams played this map specifically,
yes,
I believe, was quite a while ago. I'm just double-checking it all. So it's always tougher to sort of pull stats on that stuff, because at that point there's been changes, at that point there's been whatever, but it was into the favor of MIBR, or the organization at that time.
Which was a different team, I think. Was it last year?
That's why it gets a little bit messy between these two teams, because Team 1 haven't been a team for a very long time. So we don't truly have data
and
for
MIBR,
these sets of players.
Their roster went to phase.
Yep, they were picked up.
Yeah, exactly.
Somewhere else.
It's a bit messy when you go further back than the start of the 2021
So although, technically, they've played this map, they haven't technically played this map, but they've got... You have to have a look at comparisons. You have to look at maps that might be similar, and you know, it's the defense half where Team 1 sometimes have these little slivers and moments, and you need to have just a little bit more of that battle pressure. Here, once again, MIBR, they're in quite quick, they're in quite early, and last time they were pushing against this, they were able to take across here without anyone in an engagement, and no bodies were dropped.
And right now they're trying to go a little bit quicker though. You see already some pressure coming down towards that wide hallway, towards the planks, towards the stairs. KDS is on those stairs. There's going to be another player onto the planks as well. And as Lagonis is coming up with a scanner just to try and figure out if someone is outside on that balcony, the answer is no. But hatches are being opened up, and MIBR is definitely making some work happen here. A lot of verticalities now being created here and there.
Lukid hopped up over the top, and those Flores drones are doing everything to push that remaining player. There's one on wood, and there's one just on the hatch. KDS suffers quite a bout of damage, and Reduct, well, they take Neskin, can't quite get the second. Alamau drifts down, he's not going to drop just yet. He's going to see if he can put a little bit more fight, buys a smoke canister, but not on his second entrance.
Yes.
They're down to the bottom of Christmas. They're going to look for a fight here. Lagonis is back up the other stairs, though, as he said. KDS bit back, and this is exactly what I wanted to see from Team 1, a response. Do not just keep pulling back, because MIBR do this. They flood regardless. They will go for the site, they'll go for the plant, and that's what they're doing, but at least you have the verticality here. At least you might be able to try and get it. They're not in the default. They pulled themselves slightly further away, but they did pick up the plant. They're repositioning too. They don't feel entirely safe. And with 20 seconds, they got to see if they can try and find a way to get this stuck on the ground. Their best idea, by the sounds and smells of it, is to go to the other site. They're going to slip down, dug in on the close corners. They have the cover. It's easier to get that locked in. There's a pulse, though. The pulse is trying to find the man. There's the reveal. There's the pop, but it's a post plant. A little bit too late. Does find one, though. Only one left. Lagonis. 2 versus 1 situation. Philippox and Lukid have pulled themselves slightly further back. There is still a grenade in the pocket of Philippox. They can try and long arm this just a little if they want, but it's a heck of a gun. Reduct.
Yeah, some sleepy noises coming out as it's taking quite long. Of course, 20 seconds. Needs 7 to get the defuse out. Takes a lot of damage here. Lagonis needs to win these gunfights.
Reloading an LMG.
No! Philippox!
No way!
That is painful to die like that, and that is 3-0 to MIBR, who planted yet once more. It took them a while. They went for the plan, they went off it, and then went back on, and Oh man, I just want to go quickly back towards the first kill as we're doing it anyway. The hatch was being opened up for a drop if the contest was coming through, but Luke too quick, able to pick up that very first kill before the hatch drop could even come through. And then the second one as well, as the second player wanted to actually use it to rotate out. It's questionable to say the least, but MIBR, they're making the most out of Kafe here and are really stepping up to the challenge, are really trying to get that 3-0 or 3 points. As they're currently 3-0 up as well.
Defenders protect
I
your bomb from
mean,
being defused by
reloading an LMG, you only do it if you have to, because it takes a round to reload. And then, to be fair, I do not blame Philippox for going for the knife.
What could he have done? I mean, it would have
nothing
been
else.
Otherwise, exactly.
Nothing else you could have done.
Because did he have the gun 6? Finka probably would have got the gun 6, so it's not secondary either.
Oh, that's a bit of death. That is charged your underfoot case and knifed.
Yeah, that's a scary sight. I mean, sometimes Siege is a horror game.
I mean, if anything, it sort of paints the story of this game as MIBR. They just keep taking opportunities. They just keep seeing these options. They just keep seeing free ground, and they take it. They go for these chances, and Team One haven't quite got that confidence. I'm not entirely sure. You know, it's one of those sort of ways of trying to word it and bring it back together is, what are they missing? What's that little edge that can't quite get connection? I liked the rotates. I liked the play. I liked pushing themselves off the site and trying to keep MIBR guessing. If they're going to try and funnel themselves into site and into a firefight, then one-up them, one-step them, and find yourself placed slightly elsewhere. But moments like that.
There were some smart calls for sure, because they knew someone was upstairs. They knew the verticality is not in their favor at that moment because they left no one up top. So where do you go? You go to some place where there is no verticality at that moment from the top floor down, and well, worked out successfully. Opening up some of these angles here to further be able to challenge the players that could be up on the top floor in that cocktail balk. Philippox is trying to put up some pressure towards the windows here. He needs to be careful that he's not being jumped out upon. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if on the right side we'd see 2 people jumping out on Philippox out there. We see Alamau and Neskin just ready to do that.
Yeah, I'm curious to see the take here. Obviously, they're trying to clear some of the space over on this single player up here. Philippox wants to put the fight onto white stairs, but they've been able to shepherd everybody pretty much off that top floor. They've been able to guarantee themselves some security here, and it's down to Team One to see if they can try and bite back, because hopping into that mining area is dangerous if you don't truly have some eyes onto pillars. It can become a bit of a swing game. It can become a bit of a dangerous game, and you don't have that confidence, which is why they have to do a little bit more to get the clarity up top. You have to ensure some sight lines down onto that area. You have to make sure suddenly no one's going to just swing their way up behind you.
Top floor has been cleared out. However, there is going to be C4s available on the side of Team One. My question is, I don't know exactly where those black guys are located. Probably have been taken care of already by Luke. Same would be for any yokais up top. And you see them playing all around the safe spaces just to make sure that no nitro will suddenly rain into them to get them killed. And currently, they're being held in pocket by Neskin and Levy as well. Those will be crucial late on in the round. 50 seconds only left now. KDS sneaking up on those red stairs could be crucial if they do decide to push down that way. But he could also find himself being picked up first because he just got spotted by the Rotero that came around the corner. And Redek will now hold off that rotation. There's no way he will be coming back up from those staircases anymore, so he needs to rotate to a new one.
30 seconds. Team One has been able to at least keep them at arm's length for a certain amount of time. At some point, MIBR are just going to have to do that thing that they've done quite well so far, which is charge into space. See what is above them, see what's offered to them. Alamau finally is able to try and take an early bite without being punished against MIBR here. They're still putting the pressure onto Zulu. They know they've only got a handful of seconds, so they've just got to try and throw themselves in, but Alamau has other ideas. Finds one more, digs themselves back in. This is where the pillar swings come through. There it is, the back line. It's 2 versus 2, but with only a handful of seconds, it is entirely Team One's to lose. They finally break that deadlock, break the mantle that MIBR have been able to build, and find their first round.
Very important here for Team One to find that round at least. You do not want to be headed towards a potential 6-0 in that first half. So Team One, they break that mold, they break the momentum just slightly, and it will be up to them now after they basically just stopped the 20-second execute that Team MIBR wanted to go for. I mean, they should at least get that round. And now is the time for Team One to go up to that top floor. Finally, we will be seeing it after they have gone reading twice and kitchen once. The bar will be coming through, and a castle will be brought out as well instead of a clash. Now, the clash was 6-picked. Philippox is currently debating whether or not he should swap to an operator that is more equipped to deal with it. But instead goes from the Maverick to the Yana. So still 2 grenades in pocket. Just a little bit more information game you can play. And to be fair, on this top floor, Maverick not really the best operator to have.
MIBR, you're still ahead. Things are still kind of smooth sailing. It was obviously a little bit of an offsite there, and sometimes offsites are the ones that actually hit the ground the best on the day, because it's the one that, you know, might be the little bit of the surprise factor. It turned into a late attempt at a push and a plant. You didn't really have the signs and the signals to say, well, we know what's going on. If you fully researched a hold, if you fully researched an idea, you kind of have a green light moment. It starts as a red, you do enough to get it to yellow and caution, and you can go under a caution, but you can only really go full sprint when it's green, and you got to make sure that they have that. And it's tougher to truly know that on a site that you've seen less, a site that you've experienced less here, and that could have been one of the factors that slowed them down. I guess Team 1 just have to try and put more pressure onto that game, and MIBR, I mean, keep doing what you're doing. To be honest, in my books, it has been so good.
Yeah, they definitely threw a bit of an oddball there towards the side of MIBR by picking up that side on mining. Might not have been expected, and as a result, they slowed down. You just mentioned it. The question is, however, how well equipped will they be for that bar floor? There's actually going to be a camera outside onto that balcony. Philippox is being spotted out without he even knows, and could expect a potential jump out to come through. I don't think they're aware of the fact that Files is down there, however, as the camera is just spotting him and yellow pinging him right now. Oh, now they know, though, there is going to be a rappel up there, and that's actually the one that's going to go for it. It's a double jump out, and the diffuser will be dropped as Lagonis is going to be able to at least bring it back.
Raps, though, he's going to wait for this catch on Lagonis. They know he's there, and there it is. Perfectly positioned to at least bring a bit of balance back, but you look at the Hibana, you look at the Iana, gone, that's really going to limit how you can get the approach here. All of the hard walls, they're staying locked at this moment in time. The smokes could play a factor into a bit of a tricky and sneaky plant. It could get you some access and some entrance, but otherwise it's a very tough approach, this, without that very precious utility.
It definitely is. Levy just escaped with his life down there, by the way, as the grenade just locked in behind him, exploded right as he went through the rotate, so saved his life just barely. However, 3 members on the side of Team 1 up on that top floor. MIBR is starting to try and take some control. Still afraid, however, for potential rotates, flanks to come up. The cameras are only just being spotted out. They have still been located outside. It's a jump out to come through. Alamau misses the opportunity to go for the kill. However, goes for a pre-fire here. Raps will be able to pick up that kill as well. Brings it to a 3-on-2. MIBR yet again in the lead after, well, they basically got a 2-on-1 trade turned back into a 3-on-3. But that means that Cocktail Balcony is now clear. A player inside the freezer, a player inside planks. That's all that MIBR need to deal with now.
Pre-place C4 just underneath the window, and well, I'm not sure if Raps is fully comfortable. I think there's the call. There it is. He was trying to work out what the audio was. I think he might have been waiting for some of that. There's still the intel. There's still obviously that camera that was pinging pressure before, and as they wait for the shotgun, there's the swing in, there's the door closed, but there's another player around on the backside. It's a 1 versus nobody. Levy is able to lock it in just as the matter, and although 3 Team 1 players died outside of the map, it's the 2 that are in the core that are able to lock it in 3-2.
Yeah, I'm going to be running down jump out as well, because that basically described this round. 3 of them jumped out. Only 2 kills came of it, though, on the side of Team 1, but it was enough to slow down MIBR, enough to force them to go for these jump-ins late on. And here you see it. Just the punishes that came through in the end as well. Raps being able to take out 2 of them, but unfortunately after not quick enough to get a reduct to shut down the English shotgun that was closed in his corner before he swung in. And that cost him his life, and potentially cost a round here on the side of MIBR. And now Team 1 is up 3-2 and are starting to bring it back. Kitchen again to be picked up here. A side that went horribly wrong for them the first time around they played it. Let's see if they have any new strategies to show us.
I think that's it, and what I sort of commented on before was the strategy didn't work. They handed too much ground away. They are leaning against that entirely, maybe too aggressively.
Yeah.
In the previous round, 3 people out the windows. It's not everybody's run-of-the-mill play. And, you know, obviously Alamau not quite being able to catch the one more kill, but at that point MIBR were a little bit wise to the let's hop out and find the fight game. They had themselves stacked up, and it becomes that argument of, well, we can still see more of that here in a very different way. It's a very different site, a very different strategy, because you have the 2 tiers above it. You have all the extra ground to sort of set yourself up in and work downwards. You can see a lot of the pre-placed holes. It's not really a pre-placed hole, is it? It's like a pre-removed floor.
Yes, I think that's the better one.
That's the smarter way of saying these things.
Yeah. Which is technically still a hole.
Is a hole a thing, or is it a vacuum of space?
We're getting too deep into I didn't study.
Hey, there's a hole. It's the big double door inside just the swing on the coat room. They're going to see if they can tech themselves in, but they can't quite get an angle around the double window. It seems like MIBR is trying to cause a bit of a ruckus immediately onto the site, but they also still have bodies entering the top 2. You've got to try and clear down. Pitter-patter rainfall is the way I like to phrase it, because you start at the top and drip-drop your way all the way down. Though, in fairness, that's not what MIBR did last time. They just threw themselves into balcony and put most of their heat inside the place.
Yeah, but something we also saw in Villa, they had a very successful take on the bottom floor, but they decided to not repeat it, but go for a completely different approach. And that's due to the fact that, of course, if you do the same thing, there is the opportunity to go for a counter strat on the side. Okay, very bold to close that door right there with 2 players right in front of it, either way. Continuing the point, if you do the same thing twice, it gives the opportunity to go for a counter strat. So you need to change it up just ever so slightly to make sure that you keep them at bay. And as the grenade was being pulled the pin off, it's not being tossed in at the end, but it was enough to at least force Lagonis to fall back.
Yeah, I think they didn't want the expectation of the fight there more than they just wanted expectation. They wanted to try and force them back into a situation, which they've done, and that allows them to start doing this. Just over a minute, plenty of time to get their remodeling in, add to the lack of floor already there, and remove more of the panels to give themselves those deeper angles through towards the clarity. It is shepherding. It is forcing them into more uncomfortable situations, getting utility, as we're seeing there, to allow fools to start popping bits open. But Levy, he might be the man in the middle here. Still stuck inside Bakery, waiting for the first, finds it, can't quite get the second. Lukid gets revenge, but Habana gone, and suddenly that wall is so much worse.
Yeah, definitely will be a lot worse now. Smokes are still being popped in, and as I believe there could be a player, no, I'm not quite sure where KDS is, it was just checking on the overhead. Either way, he's down here, so he's holding that hatch, so he's stopping any potential hatch drop to come through, but again, they need to force themselves into the side. There's 25 seconds left on the clock. We've seen this before. As soon as there's too little time left for the side of MIBR, it's all going wrong, but 2 kills go their way now. That means they only need to find 2 more, and potentially will force and will try to go for a plant right now as the timing is slowly starting to drip down. They definitely give the opportunity down here now. Lukid in the rotation is actually the one that has to plant. He's in a 1v2 situation now. He just wraps for the cover for it. He drops, and that means it's all up to him right now. The shotgun comes around the corner, and it will be Team 1 that will clutch it out just barely as the plant does go down.
Literally could not be tighter onto the line there to get the confirmed plant. It's a statistic, but it's not one that is put with the W alongside. 3-2-3 in the second 2 versus X clutch that we had onto the site there itself. It was the start of, MIBR, they're doing it again. The grenade all the way across the kitchen towards the coat room is able to pull Alamau out of that position. They knew what they needed to get just to have some clarity on the place. As I said, it was shepherding. Without the Habana, it becomes much tougher because you have to be internal. You have to be inside the site to hold those angles, and that means it's then easier for the defenders that are in that position who have already set up their angles to lock you off. They couldn't quite get that. A 2 versus 1 as the other just had no choice but to hold F and look at the floor, and, well, it went the way it did. 3 apiece. Team 1 have been able to grab some very precious momentum before they turn over to their attacking half, and, well, MIBR, they obviously removed some of the control of the Nomad. They have the freedom to try and play with this Valkyrie as well, and that was a concern in my books because they are a team that has already shown they love exploring the map.
Yeah, and if you're looking over at the other side of Team 1, there is something missing, and it's the IQ. An operator that was very effectively used by the side of MIBR. They managed to take out most of the cameras before they dealt too much damage towards the side of MIBR themselves. Only once we saw a jump out that basically helped them in those 6 rounds. So, as there is no IQ on the board currently for Team 1, we might actually see MIBR make more use of the Valkyrie here than Team 1 was able to do.
That's it. I'm going to sort of put it onto the mantle that they had the last ban anyway of defenders. They could have got rid of the Valk if they wanted. They opted for the mirror. They're happy to sort of play around this, but it's that conversation we had of it's not just a matter of bring IQ, they've got a Valk and she's good on this map. It's what do we drop? And there's not really too much from this lineup. They all have their preferences. Obviously, Alamau on the Buck instantly, now that he's allowed to play, a hell of a Buck player. And there's a lot of terrifying vertical for him to try and put the pressure on the pace of heading between the skeleton key and the key that's actually just a gun full of bullets that only opens one thing, your opponent's. It is fast. It is very vivid as soon as it tries to absolutely blast and cover this game in its terrifying light. But how bright will it shine? That's down to Alamau, who so far hasn't quite been able to be that superstar player we highlighted before.
Yeah, not this map, definitely not. But just look at the lineup of MIBR. 2 Evil Eyes, 2 Bulletproof Cameras, 3 Black Eyes to be tossed out, and as well as some, Surya laser gates to block off some lines aside, or the Bulletproof Cameras for that matter, and these Mute Jammers. MIBR is playing this fully on the information game right here. They're trying to make sure that they know exactly what's happening in, outside, and around the building all at the same time, whilst making it impossible for the side of Team 1 to try and gain information on their own positions here. So MIBR really doubling down in that here. It's a whiff gunfight from Redux, and he will be punished by Laconis, and Team 1 will be having the first kill here.
That was sudden. Suddenly, Redux has decided to lean in. Obviously, we saw the hatch above him already broken, so we thought he might be able to take the fight with the Buck. More cameras, more angles, more ideas, and more knocking on the door. The attempt on the C4 here, now obviously that has been burnt. The Surya laser gate isn't going to be able to be destroyed by its own utility, or destroy it. It gives you this moment where you can sort of play against it. There's the rip blow from the Valkyrie camera that's on the back side of the corner. Lukid gets Neskin, and suddenly things are starting to slip a little bit further away. Philippox is on a slow creep up behind Alamau. The longer Alamau's here, entirely on ping. Well, doesn't matter. Levy, he's got that one up. He's got that game we said Team 1 do very well before, which is keeping an eye on the loose players. They make sure that the ground that they cover on their attack is generally always watched.
3 players inside Cigar right now. I'm still wondering if that one Valkyrie camera is still up currently, because otherwise that's going to be a lot of valuable information as Alamar rotates down to the bottom floor to try and put some pressure on and potentially rotate towards the wide area. But as Lukid is in a position to open up with that DMR to create these long angles, it's Team 1 currently trying to find a way into the site. They're being challenged everywhere. Flashbangs are coming through, and there's still an Alva on the back side right here that will slow them down and at least rip them apart as soon as they do start coming through that one doorway.
Well, it's a swing round on the opposite side of the balcony. Here comes the drive. Team 1 all the way across the front of the bar, just catches the edge, but Alamau, he's opened up. It's a Maestro that goes huge on the back line. A 1 versus 1, barely any time. A pre-fire from Raps. And MIBR just clutch on under the onslaught of Team 1.
And that is the information game, ladies and gentlemen. They had cameras everywhere inside the building. As soon as they dropped those hatches, MIBR knew exactly where every single one of those Team 1 members were. They know exactly where they were pushing from. They knew exactly when they would swing the door and when they had to go for the pre-fire. And if you then keep the patience, if you keep the calm for your team and the comms, and you have one person saying, now, go for that pre-fire, that is how you end up with these kills. And that is how MIBR now manages to get their 4th round on the board. This next round is going to be a little bit less information game. We do see the Echo still coming out, but not the Valkyrie. We do see more denial coming through. And we are playing, of course, on that kitchen. And we all know that as soon as you do lose the bakery side of things, that suddenly becomes really hard to stop a plant from happening. So you need that verticality, which of course is being able to be made by Raps and a shotgun. But you also need things to throw in. Either the yokai drone, the smoke canisters, or a nitro to make that happen. So they need to swap up their composition just a little bit here to assure themselves they can stop any quick plan from Team 1 to come through.
I think the eyes that we sort of have here, obviously, as well, if you're talking about the quick plant, they have the Echo Cams, and on Kitchen, I love seeing them because there's so many places to hide them. You have those irritating beams that sort of separate some of those server stations inside around the sink. Coffee, you've got the shelves on the backside as well. Occasionally you'll see them thrown onto small bake. You see one drifting its way all the way towards the opposite side as well, as the Echo himself is sort of a frontline fighter right now. And I guess that's the risk and the trade-off is at a certain point, if that Echo's still alive, he is the biggest problem on the map.
Yeah, that's it, right? And you see some of the teams as well, they know exactly where it's still clear, and as soon as the pressure comes down to the side, the Echo is the first one to just dip out and go all the way up to the top floor to use those Yokai drones to its advantage. Right now, Team 1, playing from that top floor. You said it before, they work their way down just like MIBR did, because it at least gives you the feeling of security. You know that no one is still left right above you that can hunt you down or at least come down on a late flank from one of those staircases you just took under control. And as you do that, you only have to deal with the horizontal play at the end, with just the players on the side and right around it. It's just a lot easier to play around that way, and Alamau does open up a little bit with the skeleton key to play towards that first floor. They are trying to hunt down anybody who would still be up there, but quickly will realize that that doesn't seem to be the case with MIBR right now.
That's it. KDS has been able to be droned all the way down to the bottom of White Stairs, and this is where it becomes a very particular fight. They're eyeing themselves up for this freezer take. They're eyeing themselves up for what is the pressure now onto Felipox here, and probably more importantly, the player, the Jaeger, just round on the side, Lukid. He is in that power position around, just chilling in the cocktails, enjoying himself, and hoping that he isn't entirely pushed away. Alamau is just going to use the freedom that's offered by the watch on either side of the stairs. Without the Nomad, it's got to be done with guns and drones, and the guns and drones are making sure that he has some relative safety. The C4s are going to pop up. He's well aware of that, and the Buck, being the player instead of the Sledge, gives them that little bit of an edge and a little bit of width towards his current active workspace.
Meanwhile, Samuel's being used to open up the hatch, and this gives him the opportunity to go for a drop soon. But first, still doing some preparing work. Just make sure that you check all the angles before you go for that drop. And as you can see, most of the MIBR members have been forced off this side. That is purely Alamau, opening up every single thing, every single ceiling, without any of the C4s being able to catch him. A flank, however, on its way. There's going to be a Reduct that goes all the way to that top floor and is trying to strike where it hurts the most as soon as they start to execute on that hatch, as the gun has just dropped, I believe.
A wonderful rotate, and this is what I said with the limit of that Nomad. There it is, the shotgun's hopped up, gets one, swings for the second, can't quite find it. Neskin, he's frozen out with Alamau and Felipox finding a fight themselves in red corridor, re-picked up, and Reduct is going back to the circle on the hatch right behind them. He's going to try and hit them from the surprise angle, but with KDS getting one, it's an important take, hops down, dropped off, it's in the freezer. He can't quite find the rotate though, he can't get the prompt, he's sprinting to try and hold F for pre-fire, but he is out of time!
What a play that was. Just that drop at the very last moment is going to be crucial. The case gets dropped. The rotation not made in a way that it's easy to jump over, so the time runs out in the end. And MIBR, they find themselves on their 5th round right now. Beautifully played there. Reduct, absolutely important in that round. The right moment to rotate, the right choice to drop that hatch. And plenty of time wasted.
Oh, that Nomad ban. It's just been a limiting factor. As I said, at that point, we had, during the Buck opening everything up, people watching both staircases, people ensuring nobody could slip past. But you cannot do that forever, especially if you need to try and put the pressure onto the site itself. It was so perfectly timed. The freedom, the slow creep, the use of the Echo to lead him up as well, to make sure he could swing that top staircase and not get caught all the way up to the top. I mean, it was that pitch-perfect play. Lost his life doing it, not being able to rotate through what was open there before. If that had been open and prepped, that could have been, but coulda, woulda, shoulda.
If the Buck would have shot one more shot at it, it would have been a rotation they could have gone through. They could have gone for the plant, and suddenly there was not that much they would have been able to do there. And MIBR, they find themselves now 2 rounds away from a full 3-pointer, and with that, start to work towards a potential qualification for the playoffs, which of course will happen right after the group stages.
Do you know what I love?
What do you love?
How many bulletproofs we've seen since the change for it to become able to be moved.
And now, it's able to be moved, but what people thought was going to be OP was the EMP darts that's in it. But we've not seen too many successful uses of them.
3 bulletproofs.
Yes, but this is what I'm telling you. It's the information game they like to play. Right now, they have the Banshees, they have the 3 Bulletproofs, they have the 3 Black Eyes, plenty of cameras, plenty of utility to quite literally slow down the enemy as they approach, but at the same time make a lot of noise that gives them that information. And that's exactly how MIBR like to play this map. They want to know where everybody is at all times, and this setup allows them to do so.
Team 1. They are 1 round separate from the potential of being 2-0'd here by MIBR, who have put on a tour de force performance. They've made sure that they keep the pace hot, they hit the ground running, and they haven't really allowed Team 1 to breathe. They are just always that little step ahead, that little bit more involved, and whether it's the 4 guns firing heavily and Fools being able to work in that support structure position, a little bit less pressure, either way, you got to give it to them. Now, though, it's not quite over. There's still some time. There's still two timeouts you have. It's a tongue twister. And it's going to start with a little bit of pressure underneath this time.
It definitely is. I'm looking over as well just to see how the top down is currently developing. But still a lot of members of MIBR still on that top floor, just roaming around. And Team 1 looking to find an entry first. That is going to be their prime objective here. They need to clear out that top floor so they can work on the verticality to push and flush out these players that are inside of reading to ensure a plan comes through. However, so far, not really successful. Shield, however, has been left abandoned right here, and some pre-fires from the bottom do scare a player quite a bit. There is Reduct, I believe, just dropped the hatch. So we have all 5 players now actually on the sides floor, and no one left on that top floor with 57 seconds left on the clock. So there's plenty of time for Team 1, but it's starting to run low a little bit.
Well, I think this is the game that, to be fair, I quite like to see here, and I complimented the round where Team 1 did it, is you can hand territory over, fine, but don't just give it to them without the fear of you coming back round, and they demonstrated how good they are on the previous round, just slipping away. Run out of bullets, couldn't quite get the full fight. Levy suffers a little bit. Reduct swings his way out onto that mining window, and there it is, the big rotations. oNe is going to see if they can offer some support, some sustenance, as Lagona sees if he can stick it in the meantime. 20 seconds, it's got to be now, and Philippok's on the far side. He's looking to rotate all the way up there, post-plant, 4 versus 4. With Raps going down, the smoke's off the board. So is the Maverick, though. A bigger loss to lose Raps, however. There's a bit of a firing line, and the sufferer is Philippok's on the far side. Lagonas may be damaged, but Reduct, he's creeping his way closer and closer. Can't quite get the clean shot. Doesn't need it. Fools retaken. There's Christmas Doorway. Swings its way around. Fools is holding on. Not for very long. Team 1 keep themselves battling back 5-4.
Good plan coming through there. They cleared out the site, they flushed them out, they weren't able to play on it, and as a result managed to get the plant down. And after that, what you see is that, well, the retake is attempted. They do get quite far. If only the player that was outside still on the balcony was picked up on that very first gunfight, it could have been a completely different story. It would have been a 2-on-1 situation at that moment in time once the defuse was happening. And MIBR, they're still a round ahead, still in a position where they can, of course, push for that 3-pointer as Team 1 is looking desperately to try and find their first map. So first of all, they can push it towards the decider, but second of all, get a point, which is so important.
For being a quiet player, and to be fair, playing the support role he usually is, Lagonas is having a huge game right now. He is sort of filling the missing link. They needed to all be firing, they needed to all be finding fights, and it's not quite working out for them. The fact that he's sort of the top KD for the team, it sort of waves 2 flags. It's one that he's stepping up.
Yeah.
He's stepping into the position, but 2, you still sort of need a bit more showing of the usual guns, the usual frag capabilities of Neskin and Valamel to sort of put something back in to MIBR, who is, you know, sort of, is their more standard approach. Everybody who's performing in the way that they should is, and that's the unease about this current Team 1 structure.
It definitely is. And if you looked at the stats of the last game as well, where Team 1 had every single statistic going their way except for the actual round count, it also shows that something wasn't really quite going right at that moment in time. Either way, map 2 underway. We are still quite close. 5-on-4 is the current score that we're dealing with here, and Team 1 is looking to equalize that scoreline here to put themselves up into a position where they can fight for a map point as well. Whereas MIBR, they're looking to fight for a match point instead, as they already have that first map on the board. Again, information being played. Bulletproofs, Evil Eyes, and also Black Eyes to be on that board are going to be aiding them right here in their push, or in their hold rather, as it is Team One that approaches to go for yet another attack.
Alamau droned ahead, trying to make quick work, and once again wants to dig in from underneath the hold itself. The Skeleton Key can cause these problems, and thought he might be gifted with an oNe punch there, but otherwise nobody is currently playing. There are pings coming through, but nothing that he can actually actualize into some pressure. He wants a freebie before he starts trying to find ones for his own, but they'll know he's there. They'll know he's cooking up a storm, and they're not confident enough to push back against it. The longer he's there, though, the more he starts to open, and the thinner those beams they can stand on get.
Yeah, for sure, but not really anything really being tossed in here by the side of Alamau. Using that Skeleton Key, very limited for so far in this round, but as these stuns are, you know, the actual spots are coming through. It's a grenade to get tossed in as well, and so are the Skeleton Keys to be used to try and get rid of Pals, who's allowed and continues to dance all around the side as Reader comes in from above and gets a double kill. It's KDS and Alamau that fall. It's a double entry here for the side of MIBR, and that might just put them onto a match point here.
Neskin, I don't know if he was supposed to be in the position to watch that drop off there, but the Jaeger has been able to find his rotation, hit himself straight into the library, and take out the two players that are inside, and suddenly that is all of that structure, that is all of that pulled away from them. Neskin's going to see if he can at least get the body back with Lagona slipping his way around the opposite, but otherwise that Jaeger has already done so much work and so much time being wasted. And one more for the way out the door. Reduct is able to find one. He's looking to see if he can get a swing onto Zulu, but at this point he is just wasting their time. Can he waste another? No. But with 30 seconds left, they've got to see if they can pick themselves back up here. The 4 versus 2 situation. The diffuser is back into their hands, but look at what's been done on the site. Nothing.
Grenade drops there. Levy's going to be able to at least find one, but not two. Fouls locks it off, and it's Reduct with an amazing flank, first of all, to drop down at the right moment in time, get the 2 important players down from below, but after that, waste that time, find the third, and bring it down to the last 30 seconds. And that is the second round in a row. You could almost say that was won on the back of a flank of Reduct. And now, you know, that is when a Nomad ban starts to hurt you, because Reduct, for the second time in a row, has been able to just come into the side, pick up kills, and win the round, lock it off. And as a result, right now, MIBR, they have 2 rounds available to themselves to lock off this game and get a full 3-pointer up onto their scoreline, and with that, of course, put themselves over Team One.
Ooh, it's a bit of an unexpected result, I think, for a lot of people, just based in the fact that Team One were, for some people, the tournament favorites. They were that team that had that lead-in capabilities, and here MIBR are just showing a better show of force. They've just been able to keep an entire handle on the play that Team One's doing, and there's little moments, there's little connections of that Team One that had that Cinderella story run of that sort of breakaway, but here they just cannot quite have the same 5-handed swing that is otherwise coming through from MIBR. 1 round separates them from the 3 points, and 2 separates Team One for fighting for anything in what could turn into such a precious showdown.
It could definitely be, especially as Team One would find themselves at the 4th place in the group after this game, and that is definitely not a place they would like to be in. Within striking distance of Na'Vi, who are currently, of course, last, having won all their, lost all their maps. Now,
I'm out. Gotta reload.
Team One, what are you going to be able to show? Skeleton Key being used to open up some double doors is nothing too exciting, but we are, of course, in that kitchen, and that means that horizontal control is needed at some point. The earlier you manage to slow down the defenders, or at least scare them for rotating around these open spaces, the better it is, because the more they will stay put in their actual spots. As a result, Alamau later, of course, will be using that Skeleton Key to flush out the site yet once again, just to make sure that they can go for a plant. However, this time around, they need to make sure that the hatch is still occupied and no one can just drop down it and lock down the route for them, because that's exactly what Reduct did the last time here in the kitchen. He's still in a position where he can easily just go up some staircases here if he's not being held down at gunpoint.
Waiting. Waiting. Did they turn away from the camera? Oh, they did.
Yeah, they're just still around there, though. So the camera is still giving the sound cue, so Reduct still knows someone is up there.
He's in the train. They're waiting for him to leave the train.
saw that. Their yokai is being used now, so I believe Files is bringing one in to try and support. Actually, no, he's just relocating them to stop a potential platform coming down, because they also realize now, okay, the last thing what they did was actually go, as a grenade in the meantime kills Raps, was try and go through the hatch, plant right in the corner. We had nothing to stop them then. If they use those yokais now to stop that from happening, that might actually grant them a round win without Redux having to go for a big flank.
I just sort of wanted that pre-place to pop off there. They had all the eyes on everything. Maybe it got caught out by a skeleton key and I missed it, but I saw it so perfectly placed up. Redact, hey man, where you going? Oh, to the top floor? Cool, this is exactly what you did last time. You did just get the audio cue on the jump in. Oh, couldn't quite get the lock-in on the fight there. Levy, he was not going to fall for the same trick that they suffered previously, and now Bakery, they fight back, and Falls is all that's left. It's an Echo. What are you going to do? I said you're more dangerous as time goes on, but without anybody else on your team, didn't see the feat, I think.
No, he did not.
Didn't get anything else. Team 1 are flawless. They're not quite done yet. 6-5.
And they held the flank.
They held a flank.
That's the most important part here. That is what cost them the round the last time around. They were just as dominant as they were before that, but then Redux was able to sneak up. Then he was able to go for the flank and stop the plant from happening, and he was almost allowed to do that again. He heard the hop in. However, it seemed like they were aware as well as the drone, the flank drone, was taken out. And that probably gave it away that he was up those stairs and potentially looking to go for a big flank there. But it's not the end yet. MIBR still have another match point up their sleeves here, and it will be going towards the reading room yet once more. That means top floor, important. That is something they need to waste time on, but cannot afford losses on, I think, is the moral of the story there. So you'll see players drop down around the minute mark or earlier if the pressure becomes too much. However, you're also going to be too careful that you're not putting too many players up onto that top floor, because otherwise you might see Team 1 just rush the side and get a quick plant in, because they have been able to do that before as well.
Team 1, one round separates you from being able to pull anything from this round, or even not even that, just getting a chance at pulling anything from this showdown, one that is becoming more and more precious as Damwon Kira getting in their fight on the opposite stream on XG, which has already shown that they have a lot of strength. To be fair, they did come in for a lot of people as NA's favorite, so you got a lot of favorites in this group.
There's definitely a lot of favorites. Same goes for Damwon Kia, the favorites, of course, of APAC as a whole after their performance in the last two majors. Is it now time? There is going to be an APAC team in the finals. Well, of course, we don't know. We'll find out at some point after the groups and playoffs. Either way, we are in round number 12 yet once more. It took 12 rounds to decide map number 1, and it potentially will take 12 rounds to decide this one. However, Team 1 is willing to go to overtime. They need to go to overtime to push us to Oregon, the decider, to potentially find themselves with 2 points here. More importantly, they need to find just one. Right now, that's their first priority.
Alamau, steady approach here across the top. He hasn't, again, been able to have the biggest impact so far, but as long as he can have something, then that'll alleviate some of the pressures for Lagonis and KDS, who have otherwise been consistently battling back. It's a pretty even spread, to be fair, of most players KD in this game. That's the thing. A lot of people across both teams are still sitting around that 1 average. They're looking at matching everything, and that trade game has been so consistent. The cause problems, and we need to bite back pretty much instantly, is just the MO. Ooh. Zapped by the bulletproof camera, and we said you don't see it often, you don't, but there's at least one usage.
RC taken out, second one is being pushed in, however, that will blow up one of those bulletproofs, so one PC utility less to work with here, and grenades are being tossed in on the white stairs as well. I don't think anybody's there, no, currently not at the moment. It doesn't mean that no one will be rotating up, as Raps in the meantime, you don't see it, but was taking that position back. Files still below, has an opportunity to use some nitros as they're being tossed out left and right. Still 5-on-5, and there's 80 seconds left on the clock, and top floor control still hasn't been completely taken by the side of Team 1. That's exactly what they're doing right now, but the shots are being whipped right here, and it's going to be a trade kill with Alamau getting the very first, but MIBR coming off better here with 2 instead.
That's it. Lagonis is desperately looking for this last player inside Wood. Pre-fired found it and locked it off. 3 versus 3 now. They've suffered a huge amount of damage, Alamau as well, so it means that any fight, especially against the smoke with 3 canisters still in pocket, and surprisingly a Banshee, they're going to see what else they can try and piece together. They just have to hold off. MIBR have a bit of an arm's length. They've got a little bit of a stretch here, and as the hop is about to come round, it's waiting behind the pillars. Are they behind number 1, number 2, or number 3? Well, actually 2 of them, and that's the surprise. When you lift the cup, you're going to find more than one aggressive treat.
Oh, nade!
That's how you go fishing in some extreme parts of the world, and that was definitely the biggest fish they potentially caught today. Still a smoke, one more canister, and Raps the next to suffer. Caught though, Lagonis on the drop down. There's the player, and there's Alamau, and he is absolutely removed from this engagement. Neskin Alamau goes a little bit elsewhere, finds himself into laundry, 10 seconds, everything is on the shoulders. He pre-fires one, they've pulled back, they have the other side of Zulu, and a hot camera reveal. MIBR are the ones able to take both maps. The full fat 3 points are theirs, and Team 1 look a little bit worried towards the bottom of a very tense group.
Yeah, currently still on 2 points. They have a small advantage to not be in that